Joining me now is David Gallo. He's the senior advisor for the strategic initiatives for RMS Titanic Incorporated, which owns the exclusive salvage rights to the Titanic wreck site. Mr. Gallo, I appreciate you joining us. Based on this debris field and what the Coast Guard has discovered and what you know about this sub, at this point, what do you think went wrong? How much do you think this was about the carbon composite of the hull, or because obviously it had made successful dives in the past?
Right. I'm with Jim Cameron that you have successive with pressure every dive. It's pressure, then release, pressure, release. And that kind of stress could have led to this. The simplest solution, what I had heard, was same thing, that they lost comms and tracking of the sub. They were over on the way to the Titanic site. But the other thing that I heard was that PH had contacted the surface ship and said there was a problem. We're dropping weights and surfacing immediately. Now, I can't verify that, but that to me meant something really happened very quickly. And the sub, probably the simplest solution was catastrophic failure. But we'll see when they pick up some more of the pieces, if the forensic study tells us exactly what happened. Now, you know, I felt bad, like Jim, and I was critical because I said, why are we assembling this armada over the site when, let's check that out first. But you had to check, you had to do that, just in case a miracle did happen. They do happen, and sadly in this case they didn't.
I want to play something that James Cameron told me last night.
They call it delamination when water ingress starts to force the layers of the fibers apart, and theoretically you can hear it. I actually believe they heard it with their ears, not through the sensor system, in the last moments of their lives, and that's quite a horrifying prospect.
Do you agree with that assessment? And can you talk a little bit about that carbon composite and what the concerns about it are, or explain why it is so experimental in these kind of conditions?
Yeah, let me say too that Jim Cameron, I've worked with the best and the brightest, and Jim Cameron is far and above probably the brightest person I've ever seen, not only just as an incredible explorer, but also as an ocean engineer. Amazing what he knows, and so I understand what he's saying. It's just a totally new material. It sounds good, it's lightweight, it's supposed to be strong, and it was the application here that caused the concern. And many people said I would never dive in that thing. I'm not getting in that thing. And sadly, again, it had a very sad ending.
Yeah, David Gallo, again, I appreciate you being with us and just on just an awful end result here. David Gallo, thank you very much. Phil Rahel, obviously a lot of questions still to be answered in what is just the beginning of the investigation.
Yeah, Anderson, before I let you go, because I feel like over the course of the last 12 hours, we've kind of been watching you report this out in real time on live TV. And with the OceanGate founder, the idea of don't speculate, it's not time to speculate, let's wait until we get the data. I think my question is will there ever be data that can be to draw a definitive picture? And what's your sense of this kind of ongoing debate between those who are trying to press that you have to innovate, you have to be willing to take the risk, versus this was just far too risky? Where are you on that right now based on who you've spoken to?
Right. There are plenty of people who are innovating and pushing boundaries. I mean, James Cameron is one of them, as he said last night. You know, he's gone to a depth that's 3 times greater than the Titanic depth. But he did that in a craft that he designed that didn't go through maritime safety protocols. That was a risk he was willing to take. But as he said last night, he would not take passengers on board. You know, this was not a pushing the boundaries of science expedition. This was bringing people who had paid a lot of money to go down and have an extraordinary experience being able to view the Titanic. So the question is it appropriate to be paying passengers down on a vessel that has not undergone rigorous safety protocols? And the reason this vessel was designed like this was so that it could bring passengers down and have a big window and fit more people in. Most of these submersibles the one that James Cameron was in only could fit one person, him, who was piloting the craft. So I think there's going to be, questions about this whole kind of tourism industry and the safety, regulations of it and the appropriateness of it. Again, if it's really pushing the boundaries of science and, exploration that has a scientific backing to it, that's one thing. If it's for tourism purposes, and should there be different guidelines? I guess those would be some of the questions that'll be tried to resolve in the coming months and years.
Yeah, I understand. It's a great point. It's the commercial aspect of this, right? That this wasn't just space and exploration for the sake of research, but that these were people who paid a lot of money and perhaps did not fully understand the risk. And coming up, we're going to be speaking more about this industry because the disaster now shining new lights on the perils of the extreme tourism industry for the ultra wealthy, from deep sea to also space. We'll discuss after the break.